They unearthed shocking truths in the book of 2 Samuel that will change everything. Few knew what truly happened that night, beneath the shroud of darkness and treachery. Whispers filled the air, heavy with secrets and fear. David, a man after God's own heart, stood frozen at a crossroads, one step away from glory or downfall. The atmosphere crackled with tension, as uncertainty lingered like a ghost in the shadows. In the heart of ancient Israel, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the hills of Judea. This was a land steeped in promise yet marred by betrayal. Here, kings were exalted, and the innocent suffered. Stories told around fires hinted at miracles and bloodshed, but the truth unraveling that night was something even the most seasoned warriors dared not speak of. David had received word of a deadly plot, the kind that could shatter a kingdom. A rival lurked in the corners, plotting his demise. This wasn't mere ambition. It was a battle for survival, cloaked in betrayal. Tension thickened in the air, almost palpable. A night meant for praise was transforming into a reckoning, a test of faith and loyalty. Suddenly, a figure emerged, hooded and elusive. The man carried a message, a revelation that could topple empires. David's heart raced. Could it be true? Was Nathan's prophecy coming to light? Squinting into the dusk, he felt the weight of history on his shoulders. Would God stand with him, or would he face abandonment? The stakes were life and death. Without mercy, the men huddled in whispered conversation. The words hung like daggers, slices of truth that cut deep. How could a king be chosen, yet remain so vulnerable? David's own trusted friends were falling into silence. Was their loyalty real, or merely a mask hiding greed? Each heartbeat echoed in the stillness, a reminder of the impending doom that awaited. And then, amidst the swirling chaos, came a moment of clarity. An ethereal presence settled in the gloom. Was it a promise from God, or the specter of despair? All eyes turned, breath caught in throats as visions of hope danced with shadows of ruin. What choice would David make when darkness demanded sacrifice? Would he yield to despair, or find the strength to rise in faith? The flickering light of a distant torch illuminated the path, but was it a beacon, or the lure of betrayal? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As the dusk deepened into night, David lingered in uncertainty, caught between the specters of treachery and the hope of divine intervention. The whispers grew dim, replaced by the rustling of leaves and the distant chorus of crickets, punctuating the dangerous quiet. What lay beyond the veil of betrayal was uncertain, but in his heart, David felt the pull of destiny urging him forward. He turned to the figure who had emerged from the shadows, his hood partially lifted to reveal a face marked with lines of worry and wisdom. "What do you have for me?" David pressed, his voice a quiet storm. The man leaned closer, glancing nervously over his shoulder, as if the encroaching night itself would listen and betray them. "The threat is real, O king, and is not just from the armies that gather at your gates. There are forces within, whispers in the halls of your palace, loyalists turned traitors," he warned, his voice trembling with urgency. "Even now, plans are being crafted not just for your demise but for the very soul of Israel. It's a test of your resolve, a trial that runs deeper than your flesh." David felt a shiver dance along his spine. Betrayal had a way of wrapping itself around the heart of a king, tightening its grip until one gasped for breath. He had loved and fought for the people, yet here he stood, painted as a target. "Must I strike at my own brethren?" he wondered aloud, his heart heavy with the burden of leadership. The man paused, as if contemplating the very essence of loyalty and betrayal. "The choices we make tonight will echo through the years. You hold the fate of many in your hands. The true battle is neither won nor lost on the field but within your spirit." With that, a glow seemed to emanate from the depths of their conversation, an ethereal light that solidified their resolve. Summoning his courage, David took a step toward the man, the air thick with anticipation. He recalled the anointing oil that had dripped upon his head, the voice of God that had called him forth. He was chosen not just to rule but to shepherd the heart of a fractured nation. "What must I do?" he asked, surrendering himself to the weight of his responsibility. A king wrestling with his very essence. In that moment, a flicker of hope broke through the darkness, revealing a remnant of truth that had long been obscured. "Seek the counsel of the wise and tread carefully, for even the closest to you may harbor thoughts of treason," the figure advised. David nodded, understanding that wisdom, like fire, can both illuminate and consume if not guarded. As they plodded beneath the night sky, David felt his strength swell, fortified by the possibility that his greatest adversaries might not be the armies outside but the hearts of men around him. Each decision would ripple through time, shaping their future and the narrative of his reign. Yet, amid the resolve, uncertainty loomed. What would betrayal look like among those he considered friends? How would he tell true allegiance from deception? The questions gnawed at his spirit like persistent waves against the shore, relentless and unforgiving, and so, the night deepened, heavy with these revelations yet untouched by resolution. As the stars twinkled above, David realized that the battle was far from over. A reckoning with his own heart was imminent, and he would have to draw courage from somewhere beyond his own understanding. Would he find the strength to navigate through these turbulent waters, or would he falter under the weight of the choices that lay ahead? The candlelight flickered, casting long shadows in the night, echoing the uncertainty of his path. What unseen forces might yet be at work, and would his faith withstand the storms that loomed on the horizon? As the midnight hour approached, David's heart was heavy, burdened with the knowledge that loyalty could be as elusive as the morning mist. He took a deep breath, grounding himself in the stillness of the night while wrestling with the shadows cast by betrayal. Memories of his youth came flooding back of battles fought and friendships forged in the fiery crucible of conflict. He had faced lions and giants, but now the monsters lay not before him, but among his closest companions. The figure who had approached him lingered nearby, keeping a vigilant eye on the darkness that buzzed with unseen watchers. "When the dawn breaks," he murmured, barely a breath above the silence, "the choices you make will unveil the true faces of those who stand beside you." David's thoughts turned to Jonathan, his beloved friend and ally. The bond they shared was forged in loyalty and sacrifice. Could it truly be that betrayal lurked even within that sacred connection? His heart ached at the thought, but the wisdom of his advisor echoed in his mind. Trust must not be bestowed lightly. Careful discernment was needed. "How can I discern the motives that lie hidden beneath familiar smiles?" David questioned, a plea for understanding escaping his lips. The man before him watched the shadows dance and whispered back, "Converse with them. Seek their thoughts as the morning sun seeks the dew. Sometimes the depths of the heart are revealed in the simplest of exchanges." He paused before adding with a wavering conviction, "Open yourself to the truth, for it may just guide you in ways you cannot foresee." Though David was cautious, a flicker of hope ignited within him. If there was a path to wisdom, he must tread it with the care of a shepherd guiding his flock. He thought of the burdens carried by kings, the mantle of rule weighed down by the fear of forsaking his people if he misstepped. Yet here he was, struck by revelation. He was still but a man yearning for clarity amidst chaos, that he resolved to seek his counselors, but with a heart tempered by wariness. As the thought gestated within him, David felt an urgency to act, but before he could conjure a plan, the air around them shifted. A distant cry fluttered to his Ursa wolf's mournful howler, perhaps the herald of a more ominous presence. He and his companion exchanged glances. The stillness of night was now tainted by the sense that unseen forces drew near, as if the very stars listened and bated their breath. "Hold close your faith," the man advised, glancing at the dagger tucked into his cloak. "For the darkness may seek to envelop you and twist the truth until it is unrecognizable." Each moment spent ruminating felt both an eternity and an instant. David began to move, pacing just beyond the flickering shadow of the torch that lit their clandestine meeting. In darkness, where do we find light? He pondered aloud to the heavens. In whispers of deceit, How do I find the voice of true counsel? With night winding deeper around him, he sensed a permanence to his plight. The approach of dawn would hold its truth, yet it felt distant, an elusive horizon forever just beyond reach. Each decision he made might unravel the delicate tapestry of trust that held his kingdom's fate. Wrestling between hope and despair, David found himself at an impasse, a revelation born from insight yet still wrapped in enigma. "Dear Lord," he whispered into the encroaching night, "guide my heart through this labyrinth of shadows, for I seek only your will amid the echoes of betrayal." Yet despite his pleas, the stillness remained, each heartbeat a reminder of the urgency clinging to his spirit. In seeking counsel from his advisors, would their words illuminate the truths he sought, or lead him closer to the treachery that lay hidden? And as he awaited the dawn, he pondered the clarity of his path. What deeper ties of allegiance were fraying, and could the love of friends withstand the harsh light of day? The air crackled with the weight of impending revelation. Hidden truths were poised to surface, and he could only wonder if he was prepared for what they might uncover. As dawn broke softly over the horizon, the world around David began to awaken. The hues of gold and amber painted the sky, chasing away the shadows of the night. With each passing moment, the weight of uncertainty pressed heavier upon his heart, urging him toward a confrontation that felt inevitable yet overwhelming. David stood at the edge of his courtyard, peering into the distance like a lone warrior surveying the field before battle. He took in the vibrant colors of the morning, the birds chirping their melodies, but within him, a disquiet remained. The cries of the wolf from the night before echoed faintly in the recesses of his mind, a haunting reminder of the lurking dangers scattered among his comrades. His thoughts turned again to Jonathan. The thought of betrayal entwined with the possibility of his friend's loyalty caused knots to form in his gut. They had shared laughter, tears, and fierce an unbreakable bond. Yet here lay the shadow of doubt like a dark cloud threatening rain. Could treachery indeed be born from such love? He whispered to nobody but the morning wind as the sun climbed higher, casting its light further into the corners of his soul. David called for his advisors to gather at the great oak that stood tall in the heart of his kingdom. He needed their counsel, but he approached the assembly with the caution of a shepherd who knew the wolves were not always easy to discern from the flock. The faces of his trusted leaders appeared one by one, their expressions a mix of loyalty and apprehension. Each glance held the seeds of 1,000 secrets, and with their presence, the tension swelled like a slumbering storm. "My friends," David began, voice steady yet laced with an undercurrent of vulnerability, "the night has whispered warnings of shadows that threaten our land." Murmurs rippled among the group. Abner, the stern warrior, stepped forward, his beard wind-tousled and eyes fierce. "Shadows? What shadows do you speak of, my king? For we have faced many battles together, and I assure you, no threat looms greater than what we have overcome." With fervor, David pressed forward. "Yet betrayal often wears a familiar face. Abner, can we truly see the heart of those we call allies? How can we know who stands with us? The night has clouded my vision." At that moment, Jonathan entered, his presence radiating warmth and sincerity, diffusing the tension with his mere arrival. "Fear not, dear David," he said, his voice soothing as balm. "Let us unveil the truths that hide in the recesses of doubt. Together we shall uncover the clarity this darkness conceals." David turned to Jonathan, his heart both swelling with affection and heavy with apprehension. Would their bond withstand these turbulent waters? "Friend, will you swear allegiance to your vow, as I do to mine? For the winds carry whispers of treachery among our own, and I seek your faithfulness above all." Jonathan met his gaze, the depth of their bond resonant in the silence that stretched between them. "I will stand by you, David, through the fires that may come. Our love is carved in the annals of destiny, unyielding even in uncertainty." Yet with those words, a flicker of unease bloomed within David. Could a heart sworn in loyalty ever harbor the potential for betrayal? The very thought twisted his gut. What revelations await us? He wondered aloud, glancing toward the twisting branches above, where the first rays of sunlight danced as if mocking his inner turmoil. He spoke again, a question steeped in the mystery of the moment. What if the loyalties we cling to are but mirages, and the true faces of those we trust lie beneath layers we have yet to uncover? The gathering fell silent, each role assumed now colored with the possibility of hidden truths. Every advisor stood connected by a fragile thread of faith, yet the air crackled with the weight of unspoken fears. In that silence lay a multitude of questions, branching out like the oak's sprawling limbs, and David felt a sense of urgency. What were the forces at work, rendering his once secure kingdom trembling on the precipice of doubt? As he cast his gaze upon his trusted ones, a new tension unfurled, curiosity intertwined with fear and the thirst for truth. Would the answers they sought bring them closer together, or might they shatter bonds they believed were unbreakable? And with that lingering question echoing in his heart, the sun rose higher, illuminating the path before him while shrouding the future in uncertainty. How long could faith sustain them, standing at the brink of the unknown? As the sun continued its ascent, casting elongated shadows across the gathering, David felt the weight of his crown pressing down on him, urging him to seek not just counsel, but clarity. Let us set aside our fear, he proposed, determined yet cautious, and instead bring forth that which lies hidden. We cannot shake this dread unless we confront what festers in the dark. With you, my king, Abner responded, his warrior's heart igniting with resolve. Let us unearth the roots of this shadow. Speak what weighs upon your heart. David nodded, drawing a deep breath before allowing the words to flow forth. I have been beset by visions that speak of discord among our own. And last night, the wolf's howl, mixed with the whispers of those I trust, raised questions that strangle my spirit. What if the treachery lies not in the distant shadows, but amongst us here? A growing unease washed over the assembly, the air thick with tension. Jonathan, attuned to David's turmoil, stepped forward, a bridge between fear and understanding. What do these visions reveal? He implored. Is it perhaps the voice of God, calling you to action? Perhaps, David mused, wrestling with uncertainty. But unbinding the truths in these dreams may lead us to the ones we fear the most. He paused, steeling himself against the emotional tide. What if one among us has already turned? What bridled ambitions fester in the hearts of my closest allies? As whispers of suspicion streamed through the advisors, causing their eyes to dart amongst one another, Jonathan raised his hand, summoning their attention once more. We need a messenger, he declared. Someone who can probe our nation and unveil these unsettling mysteries. We must know if there are those who conspire against you in the shadows. David's heart quickened at Jonathan's suggestion. He turned over the thought in his mind, recognizing the risk attached to such an undertaking. And where shall we send this messenger? What signs shall we look for upon their return? He wrestled with the palpable fear of betrayal, feeling it constrict around him like a tightening vine. A humble servant, suggested Abner. One who travels unseen, a merchant, perhaps, or a traveler passing through enemy lands. Let them slip through the chaos and gather what they can. Truth needs no fanfare. It thrives in silence. David nodded, compelled by Abner's idea, and felt a sense of direction within the turmoil. So it shall be. Let us send forth a seeker of truth, one who can expose the treachery lurking beneath the surface. Yet, as the planning commenced, the weight of his heart darkened once more. But, he pondered, can we truly trust the findings of a stranger? What if they, too, are swayed by ulterior motives? Could we cling to faith even when faced with betrayal? I believe in the power of truth, my king, Jonathan said, placing a steady hand on David's shoulder. Even the most skilled deceiver cannot mask their heart forever. We will know them by the fruits of their spirit. As the meeting progressed, strategies unfurled, but the air was tinged with uncertainty. David's mind swirled with questions, rivaled only by the potential revelations ahead. He could feel the threads of fate weaving tighter, drawing everyone closer to an inevitable confrontation. Yet, each thread also teetered on the brink of being frayed. Later, as dusk began to swallow the kingdom in shades of violet, David found himself gazing out at the looming hills. The horizon seemed to whisper promises of distant truths, yet shrouded in thick fog as though the answers lay tantalizingly out of reach. What awaited them in the realm of revelation? Would the messenger bring forth light to dispel the shadows? Or would the truths unearthed be too painful to bear? His heart ached with the weight of these questions, and beneath the silent sky, he wondered. In the quest for understanding, could they risk shattering the very fabric of their united bond? As night descended upon the land, a palpable tension hushed the kingdom. David stood at the window of his chamber, tracing the lines of the darkened horizon with a gaze that sought both answers and solace. Around him, the lingering scent of olive oil mixed with the distant cadence of night creatures, whispering secrets of the unknown. In the quiet of his solitude, thoughts inscribed by trepidation wrestled for dominance. The dreams spoke louder in the silence, their chorus echoing ominously in his mind. Were they mere figments of imagination, or perhaps divine whispers? David feared the interpretation of a heart laden with betrayal, yet the sense of foreboding darkened with each passing moment amidst the silence. He recalled the counsel of Jonathan, who suggested a messenger to unmask the hidden truths. Tasked with such a weighty mission, that hand-picked soul would bear the potential to unravel everything he held dear. As the moon cast its silver light upon the land, illuminating the path ahead, David felt unease weave its intricate patterns through his chest. What if the messenger did indeed uncover insurrection? Could he forgive those who strayed into darkness? The loyalty of his heart's friends, allies, and warriors felt suspended in a fragile balance, haunted by the prospect that some among them might wear a mask of fealty while harboring insidious agendas in a nearby chamber. Jonathan felt the tension too as he pondered the implications of such a troubled inquiry. He considered the importance of unity within the house of David, a legacy cherished among the people. Yet, he too sensed the shadow that loomed, threatening to eclipse their fragile peace. What if the trust we have built becomes another casualty? He mused, worried that their search for truth could unleash discord, reversing all they had worked to forge. The critical hour was upon them. David summoned his most trusted confidant, Ahithophel, a man renowned for his wisdom. He approached with the measured cadence of thoughtfulness, bearing a scroll inscribed with counsel. "My king, you must tread carefully," Ahithophel advised, his voice steady and rich with experience. "The fabric of leadership is woven from faith, and to unravel it with suspicion may bind you in deeper strife. But how can one lead if they are ensnared by their own doubts?" David queried, wrestling with the contradiction he faced. "In the pursuit of righteousness, must we bear any burden, however heavy the truth may be?" Ahithophel regarded him thoughtfully, the weight of his counsel sinking deeper. "It is in the known shadows that we often find our salvation, my king. We must not confine our quest to the perceived treachery of others. Sometimes the greatest betrayal lies within our unwillingness to embrace the truth, no matter how disfigured it may appear." With a heavy heart, David nodded, contemplating his advisor's wisdom. The truth indeed had its own currency, an often costly one, yet it held the power to reshape the very foundation upon which empires stood. "And if the truth reveals darkness among my kinsmen?" he asked, the slightest tremor in his voice betraying his apprehension. "What then?" "Then you must confront the light and the shadow with courage, for only in such confrontation is redemption born," Ahithophel replied, his gaze unwavering. As the stars dotted the vastness of the sky, David considered the potential repercussions of their decisions. Who would emerge from the shadows when the light finally illuminated the truth? In a fabric so intricately woven, what threads might become tangled and frayed in the pursuit of honesty? That night, under the watchful eyes of the heavens, David couldn't shake the weight of the impending revelation. His spirit wrestled within him as the uncertainty spiraled like leaves caught in a tempest. Was it truly wisdom that led them, or simply the fears that cohabitated in their hearts? As he closed his eyes, perhaps searching for the peace that eluded him, a question lingered on his lips. In the quest for revelation, would they finally grasp the solace of truth, or would it unearth a discord that would tear at the very seams of their souls? As dawn's early light brushed against the hills, the kingdom emerged from its cloistered fears, yet shadows of the night lingered in the hearts of its inhabitants. David, roused by the chirping of birds heralding a new day, felt the weight of vision upon Hyman urgency to set forth on the path Jonathan had suggested. The weight of the scroll containing his query felt noticeably less, yet the implications of its words loomed larger than ever. After a swift morning ritual, David summoned the guardian of secrets amidst the kingdom, his loyal servant Benaiah. The man's fierce dedication was unmatched, forged in years of service and battle, and David knew he would navigate the treacherous waters ahead with honor. "Benaiah," David began, his tone resolute but softened by vulnerability, "a messenger must carry a message. Go to the borders of our land and seek those who might whisper of treachery." Benaiah's brow furrowed with concern, for he understood the gravity of the task. "My king, this message carries the potential to awaken sleeping beasts. Are you prepared for what may arise?" David regarded him with the steadfastness of a warrior preparing for combat. One must face the enemy to secure peace, however bitter the task may seem. With a nod, Benaiah hastened from the chamber, driven by a mix of loyalty and unease as the sun scaled higher, casting luminous rays across the valleys. David found solace in the company of Jonathan. The two sat within the gardens, surrounded by flowering olive trees that swayed lightly to the morning breeze. "Have you considered our heritage?" Jonathan asked, voice steady. "The tales of strife and struggle embedded within our lineage. How many battles have been waged before our forefathers? All of it irrevocably bound to the truth of their actions. Each tale bears its own weight, yet the truth threads through like scarlet in the tapestry." David replied thoughtfully, his gaze drawn towards a lone bird perched upon a bough. "That which we uncover may uncover us as well. What if our bonds, those forged in blood and trust, begin to fray at the edges?" The two remained quiet for a long moment, an unspoken understanding weaving between them, one that spoke of uncertainty, loyalty, and the unyielding nature of truth. The more they pondered, the stronger the pull of the unknown grew, as if the very air thickened with the spirits of those who sought recognition of their histories. "That I end this quiet hum of nature," another voice interrupted their contemplations. Rahab, a wise elder known for her providence and insight, had come to pay her respects. With a serene presence that commanded attention, she offered her blessing upon them. "Men of valor, uncertainty coats the hearts of many, yet as sun rises, so do our choices define us." David's brow furrowed further at the old woman's words, her seemingly simple statement embedding itself within the fabric of his thoughts. "And yet, does ignorance safeguard peace as much as truth?" he questioned, eager for the wisdom only age could afford. "Sometimes," Rahab replied, steadying her gaze upon them, "the truth creates unraveled threads, exposing the very fabric our lives are sewn into. Oftentimes, the greatest revelation lies not in the grand gestures of upheaval, but in the humble rearrangement of hearts." As she departed, David felt the swell of her words resonating within. Rearrangement of hearts echoed in symphony with his fears. Within the corridors of loyalty, what murmurings would the messenger fetch? Would David stand resolute, or would he summon a tempest of sorrow upon his kin? That evening, as twilight cast long shadows upon the earth, David strained to hear the wind's whispers. He wondered if the pursuit of truth would indeed reshape their hearts, or would it cleave them asunder? As the darkness enveloped the valley once more, one morose thought shadowed the king's heart. How can one lead when the light of truth invites chaos into a realm that yearned only for peace? As the moon ascended high, casting a silvery glow over the land, David remained restless within the confines of his chamber. His thoughts danced erratically, a tempest stirred by the weight of Rahab's words and the mission entrusted to Benaiah. Outside, the night sounds of the kingdom hummed, a blend of distant laughter from lingering gatherings and the soft rustle of leaves disturbed by the night breeze. Yet, beneath this idyllic facade, an undercurrent of tension coursed through the art in the stillness. David's heart kept time with an ancient rhythm, echoing the drums of urgency and chaos that had rippled through the lives of his ancestors. He rose from his seat, drawn to the window. The landscape unfolded before him, a patchwork quilt of light and shadow, and in that moment, he was reminded of the deep ties that bound him to those who had fought and suffered for the promise of the kingdom. Each pulse of his heart bore witness to the legacy of courage and hardship that had soaked into the ground beneath him. As the night deepened, A gentle knock at the door broke his reverie. Benaiah, breathless but resolute, stepped inside, the flickering light of the oil lamp revealing the tension etched across his face. "My king?" he began, barely able to catch his breath. The boarders whisper of plots not yet fully formed, and there are murmurs of discontent rising from within our very gates. It is spoken that some seek to undermine your reign. David's breath hitched at those words, a tension knotting his stomach. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice steadier than the fear that surged through his veins. "There are factions," Benaiah continued, "who believe that the throne ought to rest with others not of your heritage but of desirable lineage. They wish to reclaim a throne that should never have left their grasp. There are plans to undertake a rebellion when the sun rises anew." The weight of Benaiah's revelation hung heavy in the air, some part of David's soul perceiving the truth as it sifted through the layers of his thoughts. "And who leads them?" he questioned, the very breath of the kingdom resting on the answer. "A man of influence," Benaiah replied, his voice low, almost reverent. "A cousin to the royal line, whose ambition blinds him to the sheer chasm his treachery would create. He believes himself a rightful heir, although far removed from the bloodline." A silence enveloped them both, filled only by the distant echoes of life beyond the castle walls. David's mind raced, compelled now by a worry that spooled tightly around his heart. Fate entwined with blood creates a complicated bond, does it not? He mused, his hands unconsciously tightening around the wooden table before him. What of those who would rise against what is ordained? Benaiah nodded solemnly. "Indeed, my king. Yet it is the manner in which we confront these challenges that will define the outcome. As your loyal servant, I urge you, be vigilant, tread carefully. There are veins of treachery laced within our own kin, and not all will greet the coming dawn with the same reverence." "What, then, should a ruler do in the face of betrayal?" David asked, fighting to mask the turmoil swirling within. "Is one to wield strength against their own blood? Or shall we speak to the heart that may be hardened beyond recognition?" As the weight of leadership bore down on him, David felt the tendrils of uncertainty binding tightly to his spirit. Was it possible to reshape a heart hardened by ambition? Or would such attempts set the flames of discord even higher? The questions loomed, accompanied by an unsettling awareness that the next dawn would arrive with more than just the sun's light. It would come shrouded in the shadows of revelations that could forever alter the course of the kingdom. And in the quiet of the night, where conflict and contemplation intermingled, David stood poised at the precipice of fate, reflecting anew. In the quest for truth and peace, can one steer the hearts of many back towards unity, or shall the very act of illumination ignite a far greater darkness? As dawn's first light crept timidly over the horizon, its golden fingers stretching to dispel the velvet darkness, David found himself pacing within his chamber once more. The whispers of rebellion echoed still within his mind, the weight of betrayal heavy against the dawn's promise. Shadows of doubt lingered at the edges of his thoughts, disrupting the serene beauty of the morning. The light seemed to beckon him towards a resolution that eluded him. With the sun arising, the castle stirred to life. The kitchen erupted with sounds of clattering utensils and bubbling pots, while the distant calls of city dwellers mingled with the early songs of birds. Yet inside, beneath the surface of that orchestrated chaos, David sensed an undercurrent of murmurings, a reverberation of fear tempered with the hope of what was still yet to come. Seated by the window, he watched as subjects moved about with purpose. Each figure, in their own right, carried tales of struggle and strength that had defined their lives and the fabric of the kingdom. These thoughts struck him as vital, illuminating the nature of a true ruler. Was it strength alone that held sway over hearts, or was it the gentle grasp of understanding that fostered loyalty? Benaiah returned later that morning, the storm of resolve etched upon his brow. "My king," he began, voice serious, "the sun has fully risen, yet our fate hangs in the balance. The discontent brews hot beneath the surface. The cousin we spoke of, he gathers followers, feeding them promises that tap into their fears and desires. The loyalty that once bound them wanes, replaced by a yearning for dreams too often sought and too rarely realized. We must act swiftly." David's heart clenched at the urgency in Benaiah's tone. Yet how do we ensure that our actions do not further fracture an already splintering bond? He pondered, grappling with the complexity of his position. The art of governance is a delicate balance. My king, Benaiah replied, we can shroud ourselves in strength, but it may only serve to extinguish the flickering hope that remains. Perhaps we must approach this with wisdom, a conversation where we lay bare our intentions and embrace the humanity within our kin. It may hold the key to averting a deeper conflict. The thought ignited a flicker of inspiration within David, yet doubts danced just at the edge. And if their hearts are too far gone? If treachery has taken root deep inside the soil of our families? He caught the eye of Benaiah, searching for an answer that would quiet his fears. Then we hold fast to our truth, replied Benaiah. We leave open the door to reconciliation and speak without deception. The very act of choosing unity over division may yet embolden those who feel lost in the tide of rebellion. David stood, electrified by the idea. Yes, perhaps in confronting the heart of the matter, he could weave a tapestry of understanding. His mouth formed the words he had not yet dared to utter. Then we shall move not against kin, but towards them. We will invite them to communion, if only to hear their voices and offer our own in return. That I end this moment. The understandings of history whispered through the ages, echoing in the chambers of his mind. Had not the greatest leaders of the past navigated the treacherous waters of loyalty and love? The scriptures told tales of leaders who embraced vulnerability in their reign, who wrestled with doubt yet chose the path of hope. What lay before him was a decision of anoints, a resonance with his very own purpose as king. As he prepared to voice his plan to his people, another thought emerged amidst the vibrant patchwork of his intentions. Would those who sought rebellion respond to a call for unity? Or would they recognize it as an invitation to seize power? The question gnawed at him like a persistent alarming echo of uncertainty that could not yet be silenced, and thus, in the burgeoning light of the day, David took a moment to reflect. In the dance of power, where loyalty and betrayal intertwine, is it possible for a heart to be led back into the fold without igniting a fire that could consume all they hold dear? As the sun rose in brilliant splendor, casting warmth upon the land, David rallied his thoughts and steeled his heart for the confrontation ahead. There in the heart of Israel, beneath the vast expanse of an open sky, he chose to gather his people not as a king surrounded by guards and grandeur, but as a man seeking communion, a brother yearning for unity among those whose faith had begun to waver. He sent word across the kingdom, inviting the leaders of each tribe to the great oak that stood as a silent witness to countless histories, where they would speak, and perhaps heal the growing rifts. David understood that confrontation requires vulnerability. It was through courage in revealing his own heart that he could hope for others to cast off the weight of suspicion. As the elders and warriors gathered, uncertainty crackled in the air, mingling with the smell of earth and flowers. Their eyes bore questions that reflected the tumult within. Trust, betrayal, loyalty, and the daunting prospect of conflict. David's resolve did not waver. He stepped forward, framed against the ancient oak, feeling the energy of their presence drawing him farther into the light of purpose. Brothers and sisters, he began, his voice resonating with sincerity and warmth. The shadows darken our hearts, igniting fears that thirst for understanding. Today, as your king and your friend, I stand not to command, but to ask for your trust, to share my heart with you all. The murmurs quieted. It was evident he was met not with disdain, but a yearning for connection. He pressed on. In the night, I have been stirred by dreams, visions that speak to the discord brewing among us. I fear that mistrust may lead us into unfathomable darkness, and I wish to address the troubling whispers that seem to grow louder with each passing hour. A ripple of emotion spread through the assembly. David could see the apprehension giving way to contemplation, as if his words had ignited a flickering flame of hope. Tell me, my people, what weighs on your hearts? David urged. What provokes your fears? For in sharing, we may unravel the ties that bind us in silence and resentment. I seek your voices, not in battle, but in brotherhood. With hesitation, one of the elders stepped forward, his brow furrowed with deep concern. What if our faith has abandoned us? King David, what if the very ties of kinship we hold so dear hold darkness instead, and our loyalty is not reciprocated? Then together we must face that darkness. David replied gently, illumination lies in truth. We have faced many foes on the fields of battle, Let us now vanquish the shadows within our hearts. Another voice rose, bolder now, but what assurance do we have that those we once called brothers wish for peace? David turned his gaze toward Jonathan, his heart bolstered by their bond. Faith must be nurtured in the light of transparency. I stand before you, let our words dance freely, and may truth lead us towards healing. Together, we decide whether to elevate each other or let ambition kindle divisions. A palpable shift enveloped the assembly, as unexpected courage bled into the souls of those present. With each new voice, a layer of the kingdom's anguish was unveiled, and conversations flowed like the ancient rivers. They heard of dreams shattered, aspirations lost, and the entanglement of ambition with an oath of loyalty that had begun to fray. But amid their fears, David recognized a growing thread of understanding, a shared desire for solace, a collective wish to heal the wounds that discord had created. With every word exchanged, the atmosphere lightened, blooming into the realization that perhaps the bonds of blood and kinship could retain strength through frailty. David could see glimmers of hope igniting in the eyes of warriors as they shared their stories, and each confession dissipated a fraction of the tension that had hung like a heavy cloak upon their shoulders. Finally, in the midst of shared hope, Jonathan stepped forward, his expression one of kinship and strength. We stand within a marvel of unity, King David. If we embody trust and nurture faith in one another, the promise of our kingdom may yet be restored. Let us commit to one another, each tribe sworn to uphold the unity of this land as brothers and sisters. As he spoke, the sun shone its brightest, illuminating the oak under which they congregated, casting a golden halo around David and his companions. The aura of connection expanded, enfolding them in the heart of a promise, where every fear and doubt slowly eroded like sand beneath the retreating tide. At that sacred moment, a revelation washed over David, divine truth hidden within the hearts of his people. It became palpable that each shared story and commitment to unity reinforced their bond. The doubt wound tightly within him began to dissolve, and as if a weight lifted, David felt a warmth swelling in his chest. This gathering was not just about confronting rebellion but rekindling a shared destiny embodied by a tapestry of diverse hearts. It was a celebration of faith. With the calls of affirmation rising around him, David raised his hands, embracing the communion they'd formed amid vulnerability. Let us rise from this day united, standing not just as a kingdom bound by loyalty but as a family forged through transparency and love. Together, we shall witness tomorrow as one, for the threads that once seemed frayed have been reinforced through our conviction. We will not yield to the shadows of discord, for we are reigning in faith. As the sun set upon that fateful day bathed in brilliance, David not only discovered clarity but a truth that spanned beyond mere leadership. In shared vulnerabilities lay the most profound strength. Together, they faced dawn's light, forever transformed. It was then the king understood that revelation did not always arrive in thunderous proclamations but rather in whispered promises, nourished within hearts that were willing to seek understanding. In the end, the kingdom would remain whole because the true battle was not against the ambitions that sought power but within the hearts that longed for connection. The unwavering truth illuminated David's leadership. It would bind the kingdom anew, a proclamation echoing through the ages, that in the woven tapestry of relationships, loyalty blossomed not merely from allegiance, but from the delicate strength found within shared stories and kindred spirits. And this enduring revelation forged the foundation upon which a lasting legacy would thrive, securing unity in its truest form, destined to endure far beyond the tyranny of betrayal.